Where are we? And this is the Kidd Brothers Ranch.
This is Kidd Brothers, yes.
Kidd Brothers Ranch.
Family farm.
South
here.
of San Guido.
Southwest of Marathon.
Southwest of
We lost
Marathon.
it very.
Land use here is
this parcel of land, we're using it predominantly for
all grazing, but there's some cropping in this area.
We will, yeah, this area does quite a bit of cropping. Ourselves, we do on our farm about 2/3 of our income comes from grain and production.
So you're a mixed farm.
And we're a mixed farm, and this land here, even at times, is part of the rotation. It will rotate. Since we've been doing the bit more of the intensive grazing stuff, it's tended to stay more in cattle, and in particular in the last 4 years where we've had this moisture issue, surplus of moisture. This is a poor place to be with a combine or a big tractor or seed drill. We're here today with a tractor because it's not suitable to drive across the sod with a vehicle. Like you can imagine trying to farm down here and get your spraying done and do a proper job of a grain crop.
So this might be similar to dry ground where you get consistency of harvest with grazing that you don't necessarily get with crop agriculture.
Yeah, and it does remove a bunch of that risk associated with harvest. Yeah.
So this is coming off a pipeline. This is about 800 feet.
Yeah. If I want to know, I'd probably ask the guy that plowed it in. He wrote me a bill for it, but yeah, let's say 800
like
feet.
That 800 feet off the creek, it comes to a fence line that's an existing fence line, and then you put in a tank. And the big thing here that's of interest to me is the switching system you've got to run your water level in your tank.
Well, and Ian can tell you what he's done there.
So that looks like a fairly expensive piece of equipment.
Well, not if you do it yourself. But I mean, most of this stuff is just kind of off the shelf and with a little bit of electronics knowledge. The things that you can do today with stuff off the shelf is amazingly different than it was 10 years ago. You can't imagine the changes that have come around in just building automation systems yourself. But pretty much this system uses a system or a radio system called LoRa. It's a public bandwidth application on 915 megahertz, and it sends radio signals back and forth to say, hey, I'm getting low on water, can you send some water? And there's a little more complication to how you ask for that stuff, but when it gets the signal, then the pumps down there start up and deliver water. And
what's the range on this now?
LoRa can be up to 20 miles. So if you put big antennas, the antenna that's on here is probably only good for, I think I could get down to Ken's there, which is mile and a
strong
bit.
mile.
And right now it's communicating back to a central server to let us know how long it's been running and that sort of thing.
And the servers were at your house?
No, I've actually got it running on a internet connection in a camper down in our campground area here. Yeah, so close.
Yeah, 500 yards.
Yeah, if you wanted to put better antennas on, hopefully it would get up the hill. Yeah, better signal to noise ratios and that sort of thing. Then it would hopefully get up the hill. I know there's guys using LoRa up to 10-12 miles, fairly reliable, using it for exchanging.
Okay, thanks. I think we'll go and have a look at the other end.
All right.
So that pump is a 12-volt pump?
24 volt.
24
But it's
volt?
currently running on 31, isn't it?
And you source
Actually, no, it's a 36 volt, you're right.
36 volt.
36 volt, I think we run it off 24. So we have a boost converter in here. It's running at 31.8 volts. You can set these manually. It's a boost converter that just brings up the voltage a bit. And I think I've set it, well, it'll tell you how many amps it's drawing too. This thing's built for like 15 amps, so I'm not too worried about its ability to run this setup.
That's another unit that you've built yourself?
No, that's actually just I think they're $25 off of eBay or Amazon.
It's called a boost converter.
Boost converter. Yeah, it just brings up voltage off of these batteries. They're pretty efficient, actually. Surprisingly efficient. You'd think it wouldn't be, but it is. And then this little module here connected to this is the pump side controller.
Yeah.
These are just two relays. One, we have a bilge pump in the river, and it brings up.
You used to have a bilge pump.
Well,
We still have one.
somewhere in there. Larry's going to go swim for it, he said. So, yeah, and then this unit here just runs the actual pumping. It gets the radio signal. When it says low, it decides, okay, well, I need to start pumping. So what it does is activate one relay. That primes the pump system because it's a jet pump. It needs to be primed, and you're not necessarily sure that the foot valves are working and all that.
Especially in river water.
Yeah.
You've got fiber and
Yeah.
And it bounces up and down, and the flap opens, and then eventually the lines clear out, and now you're trying to pump with no prime, which doesn't work terribly well. So it just runs a little bilge pump to shoot water out here through one check valve, and that just goes out to the side. If you wanted to run a trough down here as well, we could set up the electronics so that there was another float valve. It would just run the bilge pump and fill up the trough right here. And then if you wanted to take it to the top, you would then engage the boost pump. So at this point, because it just cuts off the bilge pump, it sucks it down. And then we have a MPPT charge controller that keeps the batteries all up to snuff. And yeah, pretty straightforward.
And a bit about the other side.
the other side of the river has a fence, one of our hot wire fences, back up through that. It's not farmable. You could certainly graze it, I guess, if you wanted to, but it's just as good to keep cattle out of there. And you can see what happens there when you fence a chunk off. You know, it's 15 years before you see an appreciable increase in the willows, and which only means you better get started.